Good morning. It's time for Yoga with Jenny. And we're here today. We're working on flowing again with our breath. And I've called this easing into pigeon pose. Remember to be good to your body. And as always, find ways of modifying that are helpful, that you find are less painful or hurtful for your body. So here we go. Let's start on our backs. Definitely emphasis on the ease and gentleness here. Hi. Lots of dogs wandering around. Let's turn that volume up a little bit. And so we're starting with hip opening in a very gentle way. You're going to start with bringing one knee up towards your chest and letting the opposite leg stretch long. It's a little bit hard to see when there's a dog in front of my body. Go ahead, Mary. Go on. If this isn't good for your lower back, then bend your bottom knee. And then keeping my hands on this top leg. So this is the hip that I'm trying to loosen. I'm trying to move inside of this hip socket. So I'm trying not to, come on, go away, go lie down. I'm trying not to use my muscles. So it is a good exercise to circle, but this is about finding more movement, finding a little bit more motion in the hip socket by using other powerful muscles, your arms mainly, to move. So that's why I'm holding on with my hands and then I'm stirring in a circle, figuring out where I can kind of test the boundaries of that motion a little bit and go a little bit deeper, meaning a little bit bigger. And then finally end with hugging the knee into your chest, stretching the opposing leg long, engage the glutes to open the hip flexors. So that's the muscle in the, I'm touching the front of my hip here. Sometimes the act of just that simple knee stir means that I can bring my knee a little bit closer to my chest. Like I feel like my hip, oop, that one clicked and popped there. Sometimes a little bit more movement in the hip translates into a deeper knee hug, more hip flexion. Better position in the socket. And again on this side, same thing, hugging the knee in. Maybe I'm squeezing the glutes of that bottom leg, opening up, stretching the hip flexors. Bring yourself up, move on to hands and knees, catting and cowing, making it into a verb today. Inhale to open the sit bone, send your tail back and away and lift your heart, lift your chest, meaning that your head. Exhale and tilting the tailbone, rounding your back. Lifting your abdominals, your core up into your body. Nice long inhales, nice long exhales. Just go into a hip and spinal wag here, going from side to side. I like to pause in the middle in that nice cat back. And often our unevenness side to side can be helped out by engaging one side and then the other, moving a little bit to each side. Helps our body find that happy medium in the center. And then return to a nice long neutral, so coming to that happy medium. Speaking of, let's work today. Again, pigeon works an incredible amount of rotation in the hips, so we're going to work on turning inside of the hip socket while we continue warming up. I'm opening this knee to the side, lifting my opposite hand, and then I'm going to bring the hand and the knee into the center line. It's very linear. It's moving out to the side of you and up into the dog lift and then back down. I'm going to turn towards the camera so you can see the action a little bit more easily. I do think that the arm and the leg act as a sort of counterbalance for each other, so you're never able to move very far if you're lifting the opposite limb. But if you do get too aggressive, in other words, lift your leg too big, with too much motion or too much strength and power, and your pelvis starts to turn, that's going to affect whether you can lift your hand. So keep it smooth and keep it balanced. Again, as you return to the center, taking your cat and cow and maybe seeing it's that moment in the center, and compare it to how you felt before doing that one-sided motion. I have very imbalanced sides of my body, so I find that one-sided motion really helps those imbalances. Let's go to the other side, lift and lower. So it's the dog at the fire hydrant with the lift of the arm, opposite arm, that is. Neither one of those actions overpowering the other. And then right back into cat and cow. Bring yourself into a nice long neutral. Tuck your toes, lift a downward dog. Pedal through your dog pose. Let's take the weight forward. Plank pose when you're ready. You can set your knees down as a transition to your belly or not. Pressing the hips and feet down, lift your chest up, cobra. And then lift back up, down dog. Stepping forward, feet come to hands. If you need a little lift of your body to help your lower back, then lift up as you lift to your flat back. And forward fold. You can keep your hands on the blocks or drop down. Bend the knees, roll it up. Stand tall, lift your heart, lift your hands, and exhale, hands to heart. Good, I need a little bit more height. I'm gonna move my camera back a little bit, you guys, just for our standing postures. And here we go, sun egg. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, bow forward and fold. Nice straight forward feet. Inhale, halfway up. Exhale, plant your hands. Plank pose. Deep breath in. And exhale to lower. Inhale, heart like cobra. And exhale back. Downward facing dog. Coming forward, inhale, lifting halfway up, and exhale. Inhale, rising to standing, and hands together. 2 more. Breathe in, drape it forward. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, plank pose. Firm your plank. And slowly lower. Cobra or up dog. And back. Down dog. Coming forward and lift up. Bend the knees up. And hands together. One more time. Hello, dog. Inhale. Exhale. Breathe in. And exhale. Lift with your core and your strength to downward dog. Good. Opening up the hips systematically, of course, involves the hip flexor. So step 1 foot forward into your anjane, your low lunge. A little bit like the other day, this time we're going to think of keeping our body in a plank line. So from knee to head, just pumping the body weight forward a little bit. And coming back. Staying true to my alignment, so square. And coming back. Lengthen, stretch that muscle, and come back. Notice that I'm not dumping my hips forward or my spine collapsing. It's all in one piece. And the lowest you come, that's when you're going to start to walk your body down to something. Widen that front foot. Coming into monkey pose variations here, or lizard. So if you can come lower without having a real tremendous hunch in your back, that means this front hip is really having to flex, that back leg, back hip flexor is really having to lengthen. So not necessarily more is better. It's more is just more. It's what you're ready for. Press down to rise up. Make sure you lift with your belly, lift with your pelvis, coming back up, downward facing dog. We're going to take that same leg and lift it up. This time spin the hips, turn the hips open as that knee turns open. Sort of like that dog in the fire hydrant lift. And then come back to center. Setting the knees down. We move into the other anjane, low lunge. Tall and stacked and then hinging. From the knee, from the front knee. It's like I'm just leaning my body forward in order to lengthen that back hip. And then at your fullest extent, then you add padding to be able to reach. And it's like our theory of supported yoga, right? We restore by giving our body more support and letting those muscles learn to lengthen more. So I've got 2 blocks under my hands. They could be down under your elbows. You could be on the floor. I've widened my front leg by moving my foot. I don't tend to turn out my front foot. I like to keep that foot plugged down, just to keep that alignment of the foot and gravity, relationship to gravity. When you're lifting, press down, lift your belly, lift your pelvis, and come on back. Downward facing dog. We're going to lift that leg. And the open hip three-legged dog, the knee turns open and up, but you can allow your hips to turn. If that's not good for your low back, stay square. And then coming back, downward facing dog. Similar to what we did the other day, we're going to turn, we're going to move ourselves into a side plank variation. But instead of having the knee down, we're going to step one foot forward. So it's a little bit different form. Lift one leg up to three-legged dog. As you step it forward, the toes are going to turn out, the knee is going to turn out, and you're going to turn your hips. My foot is not all the way forward in that lunge, worth noting. It's about halfway forward. If you need the support of two hands, absolutely stick with those two hands down. I'm going to stretch, elongate through that bottom hip a little bit by lowering my hips down, and then lift right back up. So just little incremental movements here. This is also lengthening through this top hip, the outer hip, which we know is working that pigeon rotation. Lift your arm, lift your gaze. If you choose, keep your gaze down, step to full side plank. Reaching up and over, downward facing dog. There's a chance for a full vinyasa flow if you like. And I'm going to turn my backside to you so you can see the other side. Here I am in my side plank variation. Hips are squaring, shoulders are squaring, lower and lift. So it feels like stretching, lengthening. Power it up, stepping to your full side plank if you choose. Up and over, downward facing dog, and here's that chance for that full vinyasa flow. Good. We'll come to our backs and grab a hold of a strap. I'm going to elongate the leg and first find good length in the back of the knee and neutral spine. So I'm not tucking my tailbone under, it's on the mat. Leg can be bent or straight. I'm going to grab a hold with my opposite hand and bring this foot a little bit of a cross body stretch here. Now in your cross body stretch, can you turn the toe and knee outward so you're in kind of a more of a duck-footed position. Then we're going to bend and straighten. So it's as if I'm going towards that idea of a pigeon pose. My knee is standing open, but my foot is across my body. So this is for me, it involves a lot more stretching in those outer hip muscles than simply going to figure four. And it's bend, opening the thigh and stretch. Bend and stretch. So little by little, gradually, dynamically stretching. Couple deep breaths with the top. Then open that knee, bring the opposite knee all the way up, full, thread the needle or figure four stretch. Let that opposite foot drift down, open the arms, and twist the pigeon across your body. Again, increasing that stretching, lengthening along the outer hip. Your foot may or may not touch the floor across your body. You can add gently by pushing the knee open. And then we'll relax and we'll come back to center. And often I like to do some centering activity like a knee hug, symmetrical, or legs long shavasana. Again, it's my way of centering in between the two sides. Which is really what we're trying to get at, right? A sense of balance, even when we do have imbalances in our muscles. Come on to the other side, so starting with lengthening through the hamstrings, which includes the knee. So remember to try to straighten the knee. Same time, tailbone is down. Bringing it across the body. A couple of breaths there. Before this super weird turn of the foot, turn of the knee to that cross body plus the duck foot position, turned out foot. I know it's a little bit hard to see in the screen in the feed. Then I'm going to keep my foot across my body and just bend and stretch the knee. So my foot is still angled in front of my opposite shoulder as I'm stretching. Then moving into figure four to just strap away with your opposite foot up off the mat and knee comes in. Sometimes you may not need that. You may just keep the foot down, add a bit of pressure here with the hand. Speaking of which, when you're ready to rotate, just put the opposite foot down on the ground, rotate your knees across. Rotated pigeon. Same thing, you can add a bit of pressure on the thigh. Gently coming back to center, something that is symmetrical for a moment here. Before wrapping up, rolling over your shins, coming back to downward facing dog. Move into your pinnacle pose, so one leg lifts and you bend your knee. As you draw it forward, we're going to angle the knee open. But my reminder is, as always, again, this is not about some ideal, right? This is about your body. You don't want to be twisting from your knee. So get rid of the idea of bringing this shin forward to that, 90 degrees or parallel to the front edge of the mat. My heel touches my pubic bone in my pigeon. My knee is angled open and my hips are square. So in other words, my knee is turned open a little bit, but I'm not leaning into that hip. I'm right up on my back knee, and my hips continue to descend towards the floor, but without twisting off to one side. If you find that even this amount of turn in the knee is too much on that knee, it's putting pressure, it's torquing in the knee, then switch to lying on your back with that knee open figure four. You can also do it seated, right? So whichever position suits your body right now, take a couple deep breaths. The other reminder that I have about pigeon for you is that if you stay up sometimes, for those of us who have, feel that tightness in your hip flexors, whether they're, very, very tight because they're trying to function to stabilize your spine, your abdominals are loosened, for example, or if you actually have really tight hip flexors, right? Staying upright might be a very beneficial tension. You can also lower down, and this is going to hit more of those outer hip muscles. So those may be tight from gripping, right? From posture, from having a tucked butt, and sitting into that kind of sway back posture. Coming back up, any easeful transition, so including coming through a vinyasa if you like, downward dog. Just stepping back onto your hands and knees is even really nice. And then bring the other knee forward. If you're on your back, of course, just stay on your back for the second side. So when you have a tighter hip that's in front, this is my tighter side. I'm struggling with getting my hips to descend, right? Because my hips just want to kind of plunk off to the side because of that tightness. I'm struggling at the same time to get my body more upright. So I'm just going to breathe and be here. Sometimes blocks can be our friends, right? Having a little bit more height can mean that you can get more of that upright neutral. That feels a little bit better on my psoas. It feels more lengthening there. My hip flexors, that is. And now here's where I start to feel it really in those outer hip rotator muscles. This time, falling off to one side isn't so bad. You can just bring those legs around because we're going to make our way onto our backs for a final relaxation pose. So I'm going to recommend trying a symmetrical opening pose. So having the knees bent and open in a diamond shape position here. You can always lift your head up a little bit if you need a little extra padding. But then the diamond shape, it becomes more restorative for the muscles if you support it. So I've got two blocks. They go under my thighs. Remember you want it to feel like it's holding you, right? If you kind of feel like you have to descend your knees to get down to the blocks may not be high enough. So switching the setting of your block even to the point that they're all the way up here to hold your legs. The weight of your legs can then rest and your muscles can learn to relax and open. And we learn to lie and just come back to our breath. For the last couple of minutes we have here today, focus on your breathing. Specifically the exhales. So of course we're engaging that Mula Bandha, that lift, that Uddiyana Bandha, that abdominal cinch to push every last drop of air out. So try for this idea of exhales that are twice as long as your inhales. to release that stretch, just let your legs go long or hug your knees into your chest. Taking 1 or 2 final moments for yourself. And then when you're ready to gather up, bend your knees, roll off to one side, and press yourself up to a comfortable seat. May we be happy, may we be healthy, may we be more at peace and feel more safe, and may we have more ease in our body, mind, and our hearts. Namaste. Thanks for being here today. Hopefully you enjoyed this class about pigeon pose.